You guys can see my screen now.
Yes.
Cool. Okay. So we have started the recording and screen sharing also. All right. So let's just start our previous instance that we created. I think we had a class on 3rd August, right? This is our instance. Guys, always remember to stop your instance once you're done. Otherwise, it will keep on adding your charges to it. Let's start this instance, which hosts our Cloudera, like Cloudera SQL server. As soon as it starts up, it will give us an IP version for public IP, which, as like we discussed in the last class as well, we'll be needing it for all our SSH and UI connections, right? Like this I have got over here. Okay, so let's just start by SSHing over it. I've already copied my path to the PEM file over here, and so it's a very simple command wherein you have to just put an SSH hyphen I will point to the path of your training key on your local system. This is my local system, and CentOS is the user through which you can connect to your Linux instance, and then at the red symbol followed by the IP version 4 of the Linux instance. Right. Yes. So we have logged into our Cloudera manager server. Let's just become the root user. I already told you that to become a root user, you have to do a sudo su. Su is for switching user, stands for switch user, and hyphen and followed by, if you don't give any username, then you'll just enter the root user. Which is shown over here. All right. Let's just first check out like the status of our Cloudera SCM server. For any service that you installed on your Linux system, you have to use the service command followed by the service name, followed by if you want to start it, stop it, or you want to check the status. In our case, we want to check the status for it, so we'll type status, and you can see like it's active and it's running. And then since we have just started our server, that's why the time is being given as this particular. Okay. So our server is up. Let's just quickly go to our Cloudera HCM server on the UI. So for Cloudera SCM, the port is always SF7180. It's basically the Cloudera manager server. So I have put in the port 7180 in the public IP, and it will launch my Cloudera SCM browser. Always use admin followed by admin password credentials. You can change it if you want in future, but currently we can use it. All right. Continue. Yeah. So now it's giving me the option to add a node. What I'll do is, for this particular case, I'll add two nodes. One will be the same which already hosts my Cloudera SCM server, whose IP is this. So this time I'm taking the private IP because for inter-server communication, we'll always use the private IP and not this particular public IP. I've been repeating this multiple times because you can get into like a confusing state wherein you provide this IP in places which are internal to it. If you provide this IP over here, it will never be able to search it. Just try it. Whether with this IP, public IP, it can search for our host or not. So whenever you provide an IP, right, it will search for that host is present in the network or not. As you can see, it's saying it is not, it cannot connect to this host because it's an public IP. But if I give this particular IP right now, it will be able to search for it. Yes, you can see host is ready and can be solved. Okay, I think last time we gave this host, that's why it's showing it over here. Okay, so we'll create another instance similar to this one, similar to this instance, and we'll also add it to cluster. So for that case, let's just create another instance. We'll click on the launch instance setup. Again, the same steps that we followed in the first tutorial. Not about giving the packages and stuff which I mentioned over here, which will not give anything like this because we have already created a yum repository for that HTTP repository. You can check whether that is also running or not. Service HTTPD status. So our HTTPD is currently dead. Let us just start it. Again, check the status. Okay, it's running now. And let's go to the directory that hosts the HTTPD service. Like all the things we put in this particular directory, we can see on our HTTPD service. So currently we only have the Cloudera manager packages over here. So if I now check the state of our HTTPD service, followed by a CM, because over here we only have a CM. So you can see that packages are available and our service is running. So we just have to, like, we have already created this directory. That's why we will not be requiring to download and to do all the things we did in first class on the new node. All these things that we did, we won't be requiring it on the new node that we create. We just need it to be of the similar type, which is the AMI version should be same, and rest things can be sorted out. Also, this particular that instance type should be same. So let's just take this one over to over here, search our CentOS type. It's appearing. Let's just select it. Okay, in the type section, we will be using the T2.x large type. Let's go over it. Large. All right. Configure instance details. Now, in this case, we will be taking the same because we have not created any other network VPC. So VPC is basically a virtual private cloud for all the servers and instances in a particular VPC. Only those can connect with each other and can contact with each other. So you have to like take this into consideration. Like in future and in organizations, you might have a lot of VPC presence over here. So you should be sure that if you are adding a server, it should belong to the same VPC of the original cluster that you have. Okay. In my case, I already have created only a one VPC, so I don't need to worry about it. But in organization, you should know. Okay. So this particular VPC will be giving adding storage. Let's also give it 30 GB of storage, which is free. Okay. Tags. So we will be making it a data node. Let's give it a tag. So these particular steps are not that compulsory. Adding tags and all. It's basically just for your own understanding and naming, like a naming convention kind of thing. Okay. So also give it. So this time we'll make our server contact each other. So what we'll do is we'll give it all traffic between the IP of our server, which is already running, which is this particular one. This is a very important step, guys, because if you give it a 000, which is like appearing right now over here, it will make this server accessible to everyone on the internet, which we don't want. Okay, we only want our server and our IPs to be able to contact it. So this one I have given for the server which I have already installed, and I also add one rule for my own IP. So all traffic for my IP, which will appear from here. This will give me an access to all the services. Okay, so let's give it a name for name node and for my IP. Okay. All right, let's just review it and we'll launch it then. So one thing is we can select an existing security group. Security group. Oh, it's fine. We can use this one. So we'll be using the same key pair that we have been using for now. Like I did it initially to connect to the server as well. This particular key pair. Yeah. So we'll be using the same one. I acknowledge it and launch it. So this is our data node instance. Let's give it a name of data node. Also, since this is running as a cloudera manager, let's give it the name of cloudera manager. All right. So this particular instance is also started. Let's just do a basic networking check on this host, whether our server can access it or not. And to do that, a command which is used is ping. So ping is nothing but it will just send out certain packets to this host and check whether it's accessible or not. It doesn't appear to be accessible. It's not accessible. So 182. So my local is able to connect to it, but this is not able to connect. All right. 738. let's just change since our so this is like a basic troubleshooting also since we can see that our server is not able to connect. So we'll have to check why it is not. Let's just give it all traffic to 000 and see whether that is working or not. Save it. Now let's try to ping it. Now it's working, but our host is not able to do it. 72. I'm focusing more on the security stuff because I don't want things to, others to access. That is, security is the basic thing which every organization requires. Okay. So then inbound rule. Let's try to make it now. All right, it's working now. Okay. So now we can ping our server. We have added an inbound rule, as you can see. All security groups have inbound. This is our IP of the server: 172.31.37.182, 172.31.37.182, and it is given as an inbound to this with all the traffic, and it's working for us now. All right. So now what we'll do is, yeah, it's working. Now just also add this host over the specify host part and search for it. Okay. All right. It has given us to this step. Thirty-one, 37, 182 is this server. We have to add this as well. Okay. Continuing it. Okay. So the same way that we did. So if you check, we will be using the parcel over here, which is the recommended option, and it's currently showing me the parcel that is the parcel version that is corresponding to the Cloudera Manager version that I installed. So as you remember, we installed CDH like CM 5.15.2 in the last part of CM installation over here. Similarly, we'll be installing the CDH 5.15.2 and the corresponding parcel of it. Now, what the Cloudera Manager gives us as a default part is to download all those parcels for all the hosts from the internet, which if you go over here, you can see. So it's directly going to the internet for the parcels, but we'll not be following that approach. We'll be creating the same local repo for the Cloudera Manager that we did last time. Similarly, we'll do it for the CDH as well. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll go to the same server we like the Cloudera Manager one, which is this, and right now we have CM over here. We'll be making another directory CDH mkdir CDH5, and similar to what all architecture is given over here, like parcel, we'll be making another directory parcels in CDH5. So to make two directories, we'll have to use an -p option. All right. Once we have made it, what we'll do is we'll go to the CDH5 parcels, and we'll be downloading that parcel package, which I can list from here. So I already like followed this step and made the URLs available. I'll share those URLs with you guys. Otherwise, on the internet, it's also available. All these things. You just have to search for that particular version that you want to install, and you'll be able to find a download URL for that. Okay. Yeah, So this is the parcel which I'll be wgetting. To download anything on the server, you will be using a wget followed by the URL as we did last time. So it would be like very big file. It would need some time. It would be around 2 GB of file. So that's why we don't want it to download it for every server that we install. And that's why we are making a local repo. Similarly, we'll be needing another file, which is this. The reason we will be reading manifest JSON is only for the UI stuff. So everything on the UI is basically a JSON file, but nothing but that ends with a .json part, as you can see over here. So for that parcel to appear as it is appearing right now here, we'll be needing a JSON file. First of all, let me show you why I need that JSON file. So we won't be downloading this file right now. Okay, let's just download this one first. So this is a SHA file. It's basically like a check on the parcel that we download, whether its key is for like not malformed or everything is fine with the parcel. So that's why this file is also needed. SHA1, I guess SHA1, right? Okay. So now, since we are this var HTML, this particular folder CDH file will also be available for us. If we do something over here, currently, like we did for CM, we can do for CDH as well, CDH5 since the folder we created, and we see the parcel directory which we have right here. All these two things are available. Now what we'll do is, instead of the URLs that are mentioned over here, we'll give our URL. We'll call it a local repo, and we may save the changes. Now suddenly you will see that this particular parcel will disappear. I'm waiting for that. So yeah, so you can see that parcel disappeared. That is because, since although it's available for us, but it needs a JSON to display it over here. That's why we need to download this particular JSON file. So once we download it to our URL, and once it start appearing over here like this, the CDH version will also start appearing over here. Let us just reinitiate the check stuff by just removing a slash so that it again does that check for us. Let's see if it appears over here now. It's appearing. Okay, it doesn't seem to be appearing now. URL is fine, I guess. How do we get all these links that you are using from Notepad? Sorry, maybe a lame question. No, it's right question, Aleph. So actually, what I did was I just like made those URLs available for me even after searching for all this stuff on the internet. But for your case, what you just need to do is like I for this case I need a parcel for say CDH 5.15.2 parcel. I just type this parcels download. So you'll have certain URLs available. A simple and state URL for parcel for CDH 5.15.x. There's a documentation of Cloudera for it. You can go over there, or also if you are very specific, I think it's can be searched from here as well. Even like when you were installing the cluster, right? So over here also they have provided all those parcels. So like if I do undo it and again go back to the initial one. So this was the original URL that Cloudera uses, right? So if you go till the point here, which I think this is the same URL. One second. Archivecloudera.com, archivecloudera.com. Yeah, this is the same URL that Cloudera was already providing, right? So over here you can see all those versions available. You just have to look for your version, which is 5.15.2 for me, and all those parcels are here. Since we are using a CentOS 7 version, so that's why we'll be downloading this EL7 parcel and the EL7 parcel.sh. So this is how you know tend to get all those URLs. Okay. But the problem for me is that even after giving my parcel the local repo, it is still not appearing. What do you think can be the problem here? The too new for this version will not be shown. It should appear. CDH5 parcels. All right. Let me change the permission. Probably it's not able to execute it. Chmod. Let me give an executing permission to all the files that I have. If I now do an LL, I see executing permission is given. Let's see if it appears now. Okay, so the problem, guys, is the same thing that I've been like repeating to you, that we should not use the public IPs. We should be using for all inter-host communication. We should always be using the private IP. Now, if I save it, it would be able to communicate. Now our parcel is appearing on screen. Okay, so we have already selected it. We are not installing Impala and other services right now. We just interested with CDH, and there is a Cloudera Manager agent you want to install. So we have already created a Cloudera Manager repository. So we will be providing that repository, which is nothing but a CM in our local repo. Over here. Signing key. All right, we have a signing key also. Let's copy it, paste it. Here. Okay. Also, let me just copy these URLs for you so that if you are not able to find something, you can fetch it from. I'll share this doc with you guys. I think I didn't share it last time, but I'll share it today after the end of the class. All right. Installing CDH. So what we did is we made the same in var www html. We made directory CDH5 and parcels kdir -p, and then we moved. Then we did a cd. So actually, this is all small when it comes to commands. cd/var/www html cdh5 parcels. Then we did wget of all these three packages, and once those packages are available, we move to the UI and give the URL for custom repo and continue. Okay. So now it's giving us certain things. Install cloudera. We won't be installing it because we've already installed it. But if you also give it, because on the new host probably there won't be any cloud Java. But let's just skip this step over here and let's see what error it gives. Single user mode. Okay, we don't need single user mode. Let's go to continue. Yeah, we'll be using root user. All hosts except same password. All hosts except same private key. Okay. So the point is, whenever you do an SSH to a host, like if you want to SSH to the other server that we had, which was let me find it from the ping as well. Control R ping. Yeah. So this was the host that we all want to interact our server with. If you want to do an SSH over it, right? I mistakenly downloaded another JSON file. I think it was not copied properly. Okay. So if I want to SSH over this host, right, using a user, what will happen is it will ask me a password for the root user. Like this, it's giving me a permission to write right now, but otherwise, if I check it from say CentOS user, now I have come back to the CentOS user, and I try to SSH over the CentOS, it will ask me for a password. It's giving me a permission denied. What we can do is for this thing is to go to the host file. This changing host file needs root permission. So host file is basically a file that with which you can at least specify which all host your server can contact and which all host your server can uh, trust. So in this file we'll be providing the IP followed by the host name of our data node, which we can find either from here, which is this private DNS. All right. If I try to do it, it's giving me permission denied. SSH keygen. Let me try this. Right. I'll explain you what all these things I'm doing. First of all, let me just copy. Let me just search ID. Centers, operate. Okay, somehow it's giving me permission denied for all of it. Let's just continue with only one host for now, but we have already spent some time on that part. Let's just do it with. So this is the same host as my Cloudera manager was. Let's just continue it with this first. We'll come back to the other host later. All the stuff remains same, like the URL and all. Okay. And as you continue it, it will start to installing with the parcel that you provided it on that host. So we have not used the data node for now. It needs some more configurations. Let's do it. Stop it, otherwise keep on adding. So although it's appearing on the UI, but when you are working as an admin, you should. Let's just go from appearing to. When you're working as an admin, you should also check for things in the log part as well. So let me first this SSH over my server, which is sudo su hyphen. If you go to the var log, every log for every service is available in the var log directory. Cloudera SCM server. You'll see certain log. You can go to this log and do a tail hyphen 100. What tail does is it will give you the last, and I've given it a hyphen 100. So the last 100 lines of this log will start appearing in when you do a tail over it. So if I do this, you can see over here it's they're saying something about parcel being downloaded over this with a certain speed, which you can check from the UI as well. It's unpacking it over here right now, but it will appear it in this particular folder as well. It appears, it says activated over here. You'll see something about heart beating stuff. Also, there is a logs for Cloudera SCM agent. You do a tail for the agents. So since we have installed this host as a part of our cluster, it has also like enabled agent over this host. Earlier, if when you like install only server, right? So you won't be able to see this particular part of agent. But if you when you include this host part as part of the cluster and any other host if you include as part of the cluster, you will see only the agent stuff and the agent service, which is this. If I do a check on the service for Cloudera SCM agent status. You see the service is running on all the hosts which are part of the cluster. Okay. So if I do a tail hyphen 100 f over the log of agent, although it won't be appearing right now because it has already completed. At that time, if you do it, and if I do it right now also, I'll see some stuff appearing in the logs about something happening on the host. You can see active parcel list updated, info loading parcel manifest. So all those steps at the backend, what it did would be appearing in your logs file. And if you find anything as error or anything which is not done well, you can just go to this log file and see instead of this info, you'll see certain things like capital ERROR error, and you can just check that error, what that error is, you can fix it, and you can go proceed further. So everything, when it comes to an admin point of view, you should know your log directories, you should know which log to look for. For this particular case of Cloudera SCM server and Cloudera SCM agent, you should go into which this directory which we are into currently, var log. If you go to the var log, first of all, let me show you what all contents are there. You will see certain folders for all those services which are actually running on server. But you can go to the services which you are interested with. So currently we are interested with Cloudera SCM agent and Cloudera SCM server because we have already only installed these two components, and you can check for all those logs. Cloudera SCM agent. If I go to, I can see certain logs available, and using these logs you can check if anything is wrong with your server. Okay, so our installation is complete on the Cloudera agent part. Now it is inspecting our host automatically whether the prerequisites are done or not, and if certain prerequisites like this is missing, it will give us an error for it. So over here you can see it is giving me three prerequisites missing. First, and also like it's giving you which IP is missing that prerequisite. Although we have already included this IP of 182, so that's why I'm pretty sure that only this IP has problem. But otherwise, if you have multiple IPs which you're trying to install, it will show which IPs have those problems. So over here, it's giving me an error, like a recommendation for setting OS swappiness. So this is nothing but a path of the file, which is currently it's saying setting to a maximum of 10, current setting is 30. Let me check whether my current setting is 30 or not. So I do a cat on this file, and yes, it is 30 as my Cloudera Manager agent detects. It's telling me to convert it to 10. It's giving me certain commands like sysctl and etc info. But first of all, you should know what swappiness is. So the point is, this is my memory. When I say memory, this is my RAM. So I have around 15 GB of RAM, out of which 1.7 GB is used. 3.5 is 3.5 GB is appearing like free, and 10 GB is cached. So swapping is nothing wherein if your 15 GB RAM is completely used, or you have reached a certain level wherein your RAM is getting used too much. So what your operating system will do it will try to use your like your hard disk of the server as a physical RAM memory, and this is nothing. This is a concept of operating system paging, wherein the hard disk will be divided into certain page memory, and the computation part will be something virtually done on those hard disk virtual memory, and for doing that it will swap out the things which are currently in the primary memory to this portion. So I won't go like much deeper into this stuff, but you can understand it as a virtual RAM for your system, and operating system does swappiness uh, to enhance the memory, the RAM part of your server. So What this value state is, that current value is of 30, which states that when your physical memory is at least 30%, like 30% utilized, so your operating system will start swapping the memory from your RAM to the paging part of hard disk. But since it's a virtual environment, it's a virtual kind of thing, so it will turn things slow, and although it will enhance the RAM, but it will turn the efficiency a little poor. So that's why Cloudera always recommends to use a value of 10 and less. So in our case, we'll be using even lesser than that, which is around, we'll be using 1, because we want all our memory to be already present in physical RAM. We don't want it to be swapped to any other part. Okay. So I already had those commands. Let me check. Somebody has written something. Let me check that too. System started to hang. If you can, please share it as a Google Doc so that we can see the updates according to the classes. I do not understand who is this. So I've already like copying all this stuff in my in the curriculum doc that I said, Alif. So
Hey, Sahil,
yeah,
actually, when you said like you will share the doc file,
right.
so because you are keep updating it, that's why I told you like if you share it in the Google Doc,
Okay,
then we
from the
can.
date part, right? So you want to be sure what all updates were on which date, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what I.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
sure, I'll do it. I'll put in the dates part first. Okay, so I already had a syscontrol to change my flappiness part. Check. Yeah, right. So this is a particular command which you can use to change the swappiness, which was currently set to value of 30, as you can see, but I'll set it using this command to a value 1, although the swappiness will start appearing 1 now. Let me also copy it to the curriculum. Here, swappiness issue command would be this. Let me also add a date to it. So prior to this, so today is 10th. Sorry for the glitches, guys. Actually, my system is hanging. I don't know. I've been running in the whole day, probably that's why. Or is it about the go-to? I don't know. I think it's something with the go-to. And others. Right, I think it's fine. All right. So we have changed the swappiness to 1. Also, there is a problem with the transparent hue pages. You can study about the transparent hue pages, but right now, whatever recommendation it is giving me, I'll just do that. So I'll be putting, like over here, it's giving me to do something like this. Echo never to this file. Currently, probably it would be something else that never. So let's just, first of all, let's just check what is the content of this file right now. If I do a cat, it is giving me an always. So I'll do it to something. So echo will copy the contents of never with this particular like a greater than sign is nothing but it will put all the contents to the left hand side into this file. So it will echo the never part to this file. Now if I like enter this stuff and if I now do a cat, the thing is now pointing to never. Okay. One was this. Let's just copy it also to the curriculum. Happiness issue, then transparent pages issue. Sorry, copy. One is this, next is this. Again, we are doing it to a different file this time. I guess this kernel element transparent. Earlier it was a defrag file. This time it's the enable file. We are putting in enable. Just copy it to this again. Here. Yes. Right. So we have done all these two settings. It's also giving me a warning for Java, but for now I'll ignore it and I'll see whether I get into some trouble in future. So since we are done with these two issues, let's just run it again. Just for the inspection part, we'll run it by clicking this part. It will try and inspect our host again for the prerequisites. So it has done it, and now it only gives me for the Java warning, and all the things are green. So we can proceed further, and we can finish our installation. Let me just check what is hanging my system. Task manager. Okay. All right. I think something with Google Chrome only. Okay. So after doing the prerequisites, now it has taken me to the core part now, wherein it gives me an option to install the services, wherein the options are for core Hadoop, wherein only the HDFS, Yarn, Zookeeper, Uzi, Hive, and View are included, and also we have something like AWS and Para. So you can just for now, install the basic stuff for the core Hadoop part, and you can, no problem, you can in the later when you will need more services, you can directly install it in the cluster. You'll have an option for it. So right now I'll be just installing the core Hadoop components, which is this HDFS, Yarn, Zookeeper, Uzi, Hive, and View. Okay. Let's just go. Now on this page, it is giving me an option to assign all the roles for the services to the host that I want to do. So right now I already have like one host, so I'll be doing it all on the single host. But in future, I might be able to migrate it to the other stuff. So you can leave it as it is for now. Like for HDFS, you have services like a name node, secondary name node, balancers, data node. So right now it's all as the same, which is a data node, which is this particular host. And similarly with the case for Hive, you can leave it as it is for now. But when you add another host, you can able to like migrate these services or also assign these kind of roles on that host. Since we are using our embedded DB, so it has given certain passwords and all for that particular embedded DB. It has automatically created it. But in organizations, you will be not be using embedded DB. You will be using their custom databases, which they'll give you something like MySQL or Oracle. Endpoints will be given to you. Endpoints is nothing but the database host name followed by the port and the database name, its username, and a corresponding password. So you can use those settings while you are trying to connect to your services. And once you have given it, just need to first test the connections. Everything is fine with the connections part. It's giving me a successful thing over here. I can just continue with it. So over here, it is pointing to certain configurations that needs to be set for all our services. You can leave it default for now. In future, if you want, you can just change it directly from the service. I'll show you how. So right now, it is like the DFS data node. Data directory is basically a directory wherein the blocks of data will be stored. Similarly, the name node directory is the one wherein the FS image for the name node will be stored. I'll tell you what an FS image is. Corresponding is for the secondary name node. So all these things are like already configured as a default stuff for us. Similarly, is the port for the Hive Metastore, and all this stuff is already configured. So you can just ignore it for now, and you can continue. So it has started the setup of all those services, which is these all things. And once it's successfully complete, it will give me a nice UI wherein I can see my services installed, running, and the status, and I can navigate. So today, apart from this thing, we'll also be discussing about the HDFS. So we have covered with this part of installing CDH, which is already going on, and adding a new node to the cluster. We have already added the Cloudera manager as a host. I'll also show you how to add a different node. Right now, it's giving me some certain issues with the configurations. Probably in the next class we can include that. So right now we have already added Cloudera manager as a host to the cluster, and we'll be discussing about the HDFS as well. Although we have a little less time, but we'll try. Is something which I think we all be knowing. So you should, go and try all these things yourself. If you face issues, you'll just come up to me or Mohibai, and get them resolved as soon as possible. Because once you are like this setup is part is done, then only you can move ahead and understand what actually happens at the back end of Hadoop and all these services. Okay. we have to wait for all this installation. Okay, till the time it's starting, let's just start with the Hadoop HDFS part. Okay, so first of all, I would like to know if you guys are already aware of what HDFS is and what your understanding of HDFS as a service and as a Hadoop's core component is. Anyone? Okay. Since nobody, yeah, I can hear someone is trying to say something. Yeah, please go ahead. If you know anything about HDFS, I would like to know that.
I just know the HDFS is the definition is like a Hadoop distributed file system.
Right.
Um,
How is it like distributed?
um,
Okay, no problem. I'll share it. Right. Also, our cluster is already installed. Let's just first continue it and go. So it gives me a congratulations, your service is installed. Okay, that's fine. Let's just finish it up. And now I can see all the things available. Some problem with under replicated blocks. Okay, I'll show you. I'll tell you what under replicated blocks is. So over here you can see all these services. Hey, you can go on mute. I don't know who's co-cluster.
sure.
Yeah. So on this particular Cloudera manager, I can see all those services in a green state, and if anything is wrong, it will give me a warning with a critical, which will be a red color, and certain warnings with a yellow sign. I can ignore the warning stuff right now because I'm only concerned with this part, but it also gives me an under replicated blocks. So basically in HDFS, everything is a block, and we have a replication of 3. I'll tell you why we have what is replication and what is its value of 3. What this warning currently tells me is that the replication current level of 3 is not reached. So certain blocks are still like replicating and are still trying to reach that value 3. Okay. Okay, so let's start with the HDFS part. HDFS is, as rightly told, like my buddy over here, which is Hadoop distributed file system. And so the concept of HDFS was introduced wherein the data was increasing rapidly, and the original like database system like Oracle and other database system like MySQL, which were still being used in organizations, but they are not able to handle such large data sets. But the problem is the deployment of services like Oracle on servers require servers which are very expensive and which are like of configurations which require to put in a lot of money. What HDFS does is it uses commodity hardware. When I say commodity hardware, it's actually servers and Linux systems which can be of low configurations, which can be cheap enough, but uh, how do you manage, how HDFS manage using these commodity hardware is that it uses a lot of these commodity hardware. So the point is, it works on certain assumptions. The assumption number one is hardware failure is always a norm rather than an exception. So HDFS works on the concept that I've got 1,000 servers and I know even 200 or 300 servers will go down sometime. So it's a norm. It is not an exception for me. I'll have to agree to the point that my server are, since commodity, they will go down at a point of time. And for this case, what I'll do is I'll set a replication kind of thing wherein a single file will be replicated to two or more than three servers. So the default value being 3. So what 3 actually means is a single file will be there on 3 servers. Okay. So even though if I lose one or two of my servers, I will still be able to fetch my file from the third server. So this is one like assumption wherein it tells that hardware fail is a norm and it's not an exception. Therefore, detection of faults and quick automatic recovery is always a choice. So even though I'll lose those two servers, I'll still be able to cater to my clients who are trying to access the file from the third server. But I'll have to set up a mechanism wherein I can bring up those two commodity servers back also. Okay, this was one. Second one is they are not general purpose applications that typically run on general purpose file system as is moving batch processing. Yeah. So HDFS works on a system of batch processing. Now, there in every application, it actually works on two like phenomena. One is batch processing, other is real-time processing. When I do something like a banking transaction, when I do something wherein I log into my account on my banking website and I then transfer certain money or I make a payment, these all things are real time scenarios. So HDFS basically doesn't work on real time scenarios. There are certain services which tend to do in terms of HDFS also, like Kafka. Kafka is a service which it tracks real time messaging and then extracting something information from those messaging and then doing something in the real time stuff. That's part of the particular service stack of HDFS of Hadoop. But as far as HDFS is concerned, there is nothing real time. More of the thing is in the batch time. So even the jobs that you run on your cluster, the yarn jobs, the MapReduce jobs, they'll all do a batch processing kind of thing. And when I say batch processing, it tends to take a certain batch of data as input and give certain batch of as an output. So you cannot do something like wherein the data is being generated in a real time and then process it on your Hadoop and then give you answers. But you have to store it first in the HDFS layer, run a job over yarn, do a batch processing kind of thing, and then get a result. So HDFS has an assumption that it is designed for more of batch processing rather than the interactive use. Okay. So the third assumption being applications that run HDFS have large data set. So when I say large data set, I'm creating an environment and creating a kind of situation wherein I consider a certain set of data as being the smallest part. So when I say like in terms of if you talk about the real environment of any computer, the minimum unit being bytes would be the size of the data, right? Following by the kilobytes, then megabytes, then gigabytes, and then all. But when I talk of HDFS, it considers in like 128 megabytes as the smallest unit of its data. Okay, so you will have every file split up into blocks of 128 MBs. This being the smallest unit of data in terms of HDFS. And why we are considering a certain amount like 128 MB as a smallest unit, because we are an assumption that all the data that we'll be storing in our HDFS system would be large data sets. Okay, this was the another assumption. Also, we have an assumption wherein we say HDFS applications will be write once and read many X's. So, sorry. We'll be making an assumption wherein we'll be writing files, but we'll not be updating it. When I say updating a file, if I like type in a file the first line as my name, followed by the second line as my address, third line as my profession and all, And if I would like in future to change my name or my profession, I cannot do it in the same file in HDFS. So you can write on that file once, but you can read it as many times. You can do a read of that file as many times as possible. But since you cannot do a change in any part which is already written, but you can add to that file. So you can not write to this, you cannot change the part of content of the file, but you can append to it. A file once created, written and closed need not be changed except for appends and truncates. So you can delete a part of file or you can append to a part of file, but you cannot change the contents of that file. Okay. Appending the content to the end of the file is supported but cannot be updated at arbitrary point, as I told you. This was another session. Last being, a computation requested by an application is much more efficient if it is executed near the data it operates on. So, whenever you in any environment you have a certain data which is present. Like for this particular file, Hadoop curriculum.docs is actually a data being stored on my operating system. Now, this tool, which is Doc, which is Microsoft Doc, is actually processing this data and making it appear as a readable format over here, right? Similarly, in Hadoop, there is a certain set of data which we have already stored on our HDFS layer, and we want to do a processing on that data. But Hadoop makes an assumption that I'll not be transmitting my data from the location to the point wherein I have the computation code written. Instead of that, what I'll do is I'll transfer the computational code to the places where everywhere where data is present. What this means is, and what is actually a practical thing is, because already I'm making an assumption that I have a large data sets, right? I have a data set wherein the minimum size would be 128 MB. So when if I like think of transferring that data to a particular server which has a code written to do a transformation on that data or to get an insight or to do a processing over that data, that is not a very feasible and a very economical thing. Instead of that, if the code that is written would be something like in bytes or megabytes, like a 2 MB or 3 MB code, transferring that code to the place where my data is present is more efficient and economical. Okay, so that's why this assumption is there. So a computation requested by an application is much more efficient if it is executed near the data it operates on. This is especially true when the size of data set is huge. So I'll be transferring my code to the place where data is present instead of transferring the data from its location to the particular place where code is present. This was the last assumption, and as I told you, this will minimize network congestion and increase the overall throughput of the system. All right. So this was something about the basic assumption and why HDFS was needed. So number point one would be HDFS is needed because the large data set is being increasing day by day, and we need a certain mechanism to store and do computation over that data. Then we had certain assumptions wherein we are saying the minimum block size is of 128 MB. The number two assumption, the important assumption is that we will be using the commodity hardwares with a like pre-thinking wherein we think that our servers will go down sometime in future. That's why we'll be using more of those commodity servers, and we'll be having something like the replication wherein we'll be storing a single file at 3 default replication storage, and which will give me a security thing wherein if my other servers goes down, I'd still be able to fetch my file. This being another important assumption, and the last one being that I'll be transferring my code to the place where data is present, and this is something called as data locality. So these are the three main assumptions you can tell to your interviewer as well if he asks you why do we need HDFS. If you guys have any confusion in this part, tell me. Otherwise, I'll go to the next part of services. Okay. So when I talk of HDFS, I'll always be having certain services. HDFS works in an assumption where it says that there would be a master and there would be a certain slaves to that part. So when I say master, I'll be having a name node which is over here, and I'll be having certain data nodes. So data nodes, when you talk of name node, in any organization, name node being the master will not make it a commodity hardware. We'll be using an efficient, highly reliable server, which might be expensive as well, to cater to the needs of a name node. Because we don't want our master to go down. If our name node goes down, guys, the whole HDFS will be down. Although we had certain scenario wherein we can make two name nodes available when we talk of a name node HA, but even in that case, we'll be having those two name nodes as a highly reliable software and not as a commodity hardware. But when we talk of data nodes, we'll be having multiple data nodes. Like, I have seen organizations that have around 1,000, 2,000 data nodes available, which gives us security where we can make it a commodity hardware, and if it goes down, others would be able to, cater to our needs. So we'll be having a name node and certain data nodes. Now, if any of the client tries to reach to the particular data, what it will do is it will contact the name node first. Over here, which is given as metadata operation. It will contact the name node. Name node, what it does it doesn't store any other data which is being stored in the data nodes. It only stores about which data is present on which data node, and if that data is divided into other replications, which all data nodes host that replication. So all those index kind of information wherein which data node hosts which blocks, and if any data node is down, if any data node is not available, or if a new data node is added, all these kind of like master information will be available to the name node. So whenever my client wants to fetch a particular data, it will contact the name node first, following which the name node will give it certain metadata information like the replicas, the name of the data nodes hosting that information. Once the client receives all those information, right, it will then go to those data nodes and check for the data. Similarly, would be the case for writing. When in terms of writing, it will the name node will give the client certain data nodes wherein it will tell that particular application that you can use these data nodes to write your data. Okay. So you can like refer to this architecture and understand it more. You can read more about it in certain books as well. I think Mohi also said the definitive guide. You can understand what all is part of all this. So everything when I talk of service is written in Java, and uh, like over here, if you can see on the UI front, as part of an admin is concerned, he should know what is all this the work of these services are. Like this is my name node, this is my secondary name node, and this is my data node. I currently have installed it on the same host. I can check these services on the host level as well. So to check a service, I'll do ts-if grep the name of the service, like or do a name node. So it is currently giving me both the name nodes and the secondary name node. Similarly, you can check for the data node as well. Like over here, it's giving me a service ID for the data node. Now, if I want to check which port this data node is running, I'll do something like netstat followed by terminal grep the service ID of my data node process. So this is complete. This complete thing is my data node process, and the process ID of this node is this. If I do a grep over this, it is giving me the set of ports that my data node is currently using. Similarly, for the name node, if I do, so this is my name node process, this complete, and this is the service ID of my name node process. If I do a netstat -net grep over this name node ID, it will give me the ports. I think I just typed the data node process ID. Okay, this is the name node, and it gives me all the ports that are being used. So any port in the range of 8020, 8022 when you talk of name node is basically an RPC port. You can read about what is the difference between an RPC and a TCP port. So 8020 is basically when you want to contact your data node from a client's point of view, and 5070 is basically when you want to contact your name node from the UI. So if I copy this URL for this port, and although this particular is a private IP, it won't work over here, but I'll be copying it to the public IP. So something like this being my public IP of my host, instead of private IP, if I give it over here, it will give me the name node UI. So this is the name node UI. It is basically telling me certain information about my whole cluster. So my cluster has a configured capacity of 27 GB, which although since I have already added one node, so it's giving me the capacity of this one node only. If I do a df, or if I do a du-sh/, tell me what my space. Okay, so currently it is not df-kh. If I do, so my root has around 30 GB of space, right? And this is something being used over here, 26.9. So other stuff being like, you can exclude those in certain system files and all. So this is the configured capacity of my node. Similarly, this is a DFS used. So currently only 591.5 MB is being used. Non-DFS use is something um, which is like a prerequisite thing for every cluster, which is not being used by HDFS and otherwise being used by other services and other stuff on your server. And this is something which is already available. So from an admin point of view, you should always keep a track of the name node UI and see if your DFS remaining and the configured capacity are not breaching. So you should always be something like the DFS remaining should be around, at max you can go to a 20% level, and you should plan purging certain data and moving certain data from your cluster if it goes beyond that. Otherwise, if your DFS used crosses a quantity of around 90%, you will see certain errors on your cluster UI, wherein over the yarn, the node manager is a service. I'll tell you more about node manager in the next classes. So node manager is nothing but a service which tends to run applications on your cluster data. So as soon as the name node UI at percentage DFS use reaches beyond 2.4%, like around 90%, your services over here will start going down. So as an admin, you should always cater to that need of keeping your data as low as possible. If certain data is about to be purged and you want to reduce your capacity, you should contact other teams of your organization and tell them that they should start purging the data. Otherwise, you can figure out if you can purge any other data. So this was about the name node UI and services about all the name node does. You can read more about it from books and all. All right. Now, I think I can just show you certain more steps about HDFS. So this was something from the UI part. You can also check about the HDFS spaces and stuff for something like from command like HDFS DFS admin -report. If you do this command, right, it will give you the status of your cluster, including, so currently is giving me super user privilege is required. Basically, everything in HDFS is done from user HDFS. So let me just go to the HDFS user. When I do switch user to the HDFS part, I've reached the HDFS user. Now if I try to run this command, so this will give me a report of all my cluster right now. So you can see my cluster host name, configured capacity is 26.9 GB. This is used. This is not used, non-DFS used, or DFS remaining, and all those things available using the command HDFS DFS admin -report. Similarly, the other administration command, if I talk of, you can check like I was doing something like DFF and KH on my local system, right? Similarly, I can do this on the HDFS cluster as well. So if I do HDFS DFS -df -h on my cluster, it will give me the configured capacity of my cluster, which is this. Okay. Also, similarly, like I was doing LL on my local system, I can do the same thing on the HDFS. So everything should start with HDFS DFS followed by a slash with the command that you want to. LL will not work on the HDFS. LS would work. LS and the location of directory where I want to check what all files are available. So over slash, if you see, there is a slash user directory and there is a slash temp directory. These are the particular permissions to it. This is the user which is owning it. This is the group which is owning it, and similarly the date and time creation. So I think we can, you can study at least about this first command HDFS admin report, followed by the name node UI and what all stuff is available, and what is security, what is safe mode. Security we have not set up right now. What is safe mode I can tell you, but let's just do it in upcoming classes. All right. So this was like the basic stuff of installing a cluster and what all things are available in terms of HDFS, the architecture of HDFS, and the basic commands of HDFS. I'll be sharing the doc, the basic services, and the basic commands and of HDFS. I've written some more stuff about block replication and what is the minimum block replication criteria, what is the selection, what is a safe mode. You can study this stuff as well, and if you have any doubt, you can like discuss it in the upcoming classes. All right, I think we can conclude this class for now. If you have any question, you can just come up.
Hi, Sahil.
Hi.
If I'm not wrong, today we actually learn how to make a cluster in like using Cloudera
Right.
in the AWS service, right?
Right.
That's the main part. And also we covered some conceptual aspects of HDFS,
Yes.
right?
Right. So
Okay.
some conceptual aspects, architecture, as well as the services. So these are the basic things. Also, you should like go more into deep into it if you want to understand how all these services work, how all they interact with each other. So there's something like communication protocols and also certain ports that I also discussed over here, right? So if you
Yeah.
just like if you just
Check again.
yeah.
Mhm.
So all these things are like the basic thing from an admin's point of view. You should know the ports, you should know the configuration, you should check, you should keep checking your services are up or not, your cluster is being utilized to a point where it can accommodate more data or not. So all these things from the HDFS point of view, and of course the architecture, because in terms of when you talk of interviews and all, they'll always ask you the architecture and the services used. So we discuss all this stuff, right?
Okay, I might have some questions like in the upcoming class. Can we have like maybe 10 minutes question and answer session before starting the next class, like in the next period? Like,
Sure.
because
So what we can do is,
questions regarding,
yeah, right.
yeah.
What we can do is we can start the next class around like 10-15 minutes before, and we can discuss your questions in that part. Okay.
Yeah, got it. Thank you so much.
Okay. 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 Any other questions? I think only 6 people are joining right now. All right, guys. Then we can just complete this session and let's meet in the next class. I'll be sharing the recording and this document as soon as we finish this. Okay. Thank you for joining, guys, and
Thank you.
Eid Mubarak for you all.
Eid Mubarak.
All right, thank you, Sahil. And we're going to join on the 11 o'clock. You can take a break and come back at fine. Well, are we going to join it on the same one?
Yes, I think we can join in the same one. Okay, let's see. I'm having some issues with my system, Kareem. I think I'll have to reboot it. I will share
No
the.
problem. Take your
I'll
time.
share.
There is no rush.
Yeah, I'll share the
Yes.
new link if I get like if I make a new meeting one. Okay.
Okay, perfect. All right, do that on the chat then. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Goodbye.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.